Try it one more time.
All right, here we go. I'm trying it again.
Okay, now we're streaming. I see us.
Okay. See, there's always something, right? One extra one. Are we good?
We're live.
Okay, very good. Good evening, everyone. My name is Antoinette. I'm chair of the Joshua Johnson Council and affiliate of the Baltimore Museum of Art. We're one of the oldest African-American arts groups in the nation, formed some 36 years ago. Joshua Johnson Council was established to broaden our involvement in the museum, first simply to increase our attendance, then influencing museum exhibitions and programs. And we furthered our work by directly engaging with local artists in the community, doing studio visits, bringing artists into the museum for presentations, and now our public conversations. We meet on the second Thursday of each month, except July and August at 6 p.m. JJC is a membership organization that must be accompanied by a BMA membership. More to come on that later. I'm going to now turn it over to Dave to talk about our guest artist for the evening.
Good evening, y'all. I'm Dave Issa. I'm the manager of community engagement here at the BMA. We're really excited to have you here with us tonight. As we all know, everything in the world is virtual now. And what's been really exciting about JJC and what this council has done in the time since March is we've pivoted to an entirely virtual sort of calendar. And at the same time is we've launched a fall and spring speaker series called JJC Talks. Earlier this year in September, we heard from artist Shan Wallace and Jessica Bell Brown. We heard from Tommy Mitchell last month. And this is a pretty special one for us this evening because we are welcoming back an absolutely incredible painter in Baltimore, but many people may not know is the incredible Jerrell Gibbs was the vice chair of JJC for quite some time. I'm going to give you his bio, but as we all know, if you've ever met Jerrell, he cannot be encapsulated by this set of words, this paragraph. As a painter, he retraces family memories, examining the origin of his own life by representing intimate and instantly joyous moments. While affirming the multi-layered experience of the African-American diaspora, Gibbs plunges the viewer into an immersive experience, the realm of his childhood. Growing up in Baltimore influenced his perspective of socioeconomics, body politics, race, economic disparities, and their influence on one another. Through his figurative portraits, Gibbs accentuates banal representations of Black identity by depicting empathy, inviting the possibility for a spiritual connection. The works are adapted from small Polaroids into life-size paintings, and the artist draws on revised characters in his own life and narratives such as Charles M. Schultz Peanuts, mimicking the comic strip's playful, illustrative style. Gibbs will graduate in 2020 with an MFA from the Maryland Institute College of Art. He has exhibited at the Reginald F. Lewis Museum, the galleries at CCBC, and the gallery at Howard University. His work appears in the permanent collection in the Harbor Bank of Maryland, as well as we're seeing some museums coming up. You all know him. He's the man, the myth, an absolutely amazing human. Here at JJC, we've been blessed to know him in this capacity for quite some time. Me personally, I feel blessed to have known this individual for, I don't know how long, but we're really excited to have you here tonight with us and to hear more about your work. So I'm going to shut up now and transfer this over to my man. And thank you, Jerrell.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. I think I need to go back to my bio and adjust that because I actually graduated, so I'm done. I graduated this past May, so that's exciting. I think I wanted to do it a little different. Like I didn't just want to show a bunch of paintings for like 30 minutes. So I think I'm gonna make it a little more intimate and just kind of go through like the journey as to like how I got into where I am. But, first and foremost, my name is Jerrell Gibbs, born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. I started painting in 2014, I think. My wife bought me an easel as a Father's Day gift. Prior to that, I had just like rediscovered like my creative side as it relates to like drawing and sketching. I used to do that a lot as a kid, but just kind of let it go. Really didn't have like the support, and it just didn't seem like something that made sense at that time for me. So I let it go, got back into it, started drawing, and my wife saw that, she saw what I was doing, so she decided to grab me easel and some painting supplies as a Father's Day gift in 2014. Started painting, really got into it. I mean, like I was going to work and like all day I would be literally at work and just reading up and studying and really wanted to hone my skill and figure out what made great artists great, So I was doing that for like 2.5 years, just working and nonstop, just figuring out how to continue to perfect my craft, et cetera, et cetera. So throughout that process, throughout that time, started to get more comfortable, find my own voice, started to understand what it meant to like create a series of works, like a body of work. And that's when I created my first series, when I was using Franklin as like the voice of my frustration at a time and period in my life. So Franklin is the character from Charles Schultz's Peanut Gang with Charlie Brown and the rest of the gang. And he was the only, and is the only African-American character on the comic strip. So I was using him as the voice for me and, like my community and things that I was seeing at that time. So I would say like after that, after figuring out what a series and a body of work looked like and making it cohesive and making it work, I started to really get involved in the art scene in Baltimore in particular, and really just try to connect and meet different people and network and put on my own shows and just showed up to different events, met different people, and just like built the tribe, like over time like that. And I want to say after that, I started to work on another series right after I met up with a mentor of mine who's been just like in my corner from day one, Jeffrey Kent. That's my man, that's my dude. Met up with him and started another series. And I want to say right after that, I realized that, if I wanted to continue to excel and grow, I was going to have to take the next step. Because prior to starting painting, I had dropped out of college like twice. I started at Morgan State University as soon as I got out of high school, and just wasn't doing good. I wasn't really focused on school at all. I was having a good time, and I was like, why am I in school if I'm, not even here doing what I'm supposed to do? So ended up dropping out of Morgan State, took like a semester and a half off, I think, and then started back at Bowie State, which is going towards Southern Maryland. Started there. I was at Bowie for maybe like a year, maybe a year and a half. And my wife and I got pregnant, I think while I was a junior or sophomore or junior at Bowie State. And after that, I had to make a decision, and again, I really wasn't inspired or interested in what I was learning at school at that time because I really didn't know what it was that I was seeking or looking for. So that second time I dropped out of school, I just started working full time, working like 2 jobs, taking my family, et cetera. And then, the painting came about and that started to take off. But fast forward to me getting to that second series, I was at a point creatively where I felt like I needed to take another step in order to really get to a place that I wanted. I always knew from day one that I didn't want to work a job for the rest of my life. And I always knew that, within me, there was more to just what I was accustomed to seeing in my community and just like being what I was exposed to. So I was always looking for something different. And once I decided to make the decision to go back to school, I reached out to my mentor, Jeffrey, and, he suggested that, I just go straight to graduate school, and get a master's degree, which I thought didn't even make sense because, again, I didn't graduate undergrad. So how could I go to graduate school and get a master's degree? But fortunately, I was accepted. I put in a lot of hard work prior to that, a lot of groundwork. I was doing my own shows, again, showing up at the right places, meeting the right people, and developing that relationship. But all the time I was always studying, always reading, always trying to figure out what made great artists great. Like that was my whole thing. That was the question I always asked myself. And while I was reading, I was always asking or seeing like what it was that made those great artists phenomenal. So decided to go to graduate school, did my portfolio, applied, went through the interview process, got my references, etc. Ended up getting accepted into the Hofberger program, which is the Leroy E. Hofberger program at MICA. I got my degree under Professor Joan Waltermath and Professor Stephen Ellis. That experience was phenomenal. It was tough. It was grueling, but it made me continue to chisel me into who I needed to become in order to excel and grow. Again, that the process was very intense. That 2-year process is tough, but it really shapes you, and it keeps you focused, and it allows you to have time to really spend time focusing on creating and becoming the best that you can be in that space as a creator. So I did that for 2 years. Sorry, that's my daughter Reagan. Did that for 2 years, graduated. Man, I lost my train of thought and everything. The process. So the process of graduate school, got done with that. And then COVID hit. So like as soon as I graduated, COVID hit. And there really was no break in between. And it was like this weirdest thing. So I'm here now, like this is where I'm at. Just trying to take it day by day. I'm missing something. Oh, yes. And prior to graduating, I started how do you say it? I started a relationship with the gallery I think it was last fall, and we, spent some time working on things together, and decided to see what makes sense for us, and then that turned into something else. And now I'm represented by Marian Ibrahim Gallery, which is based in Chicago. But this whole process, this whole journey was it was phenomenal. I'm grateful. It was tough and grueling, but I'm doing what I love to do. I'm excited. And, I came from like pretty much out of nowhere, and more than anything, like I was doing this to show myself that I could do it, to show my family that we can do it, and to show like the kids in the city, like where I'm from, Baltimore City, like you can do it, like 5 years ago, I had just started painting. You feel me? Like I didn't start getting into like arts period until like 2014, and this was like when I was 25 years old. So you're never too like old to get started. You're never too young to get started, and you can really come from nothing and make it to something, if it's something that you're passionate about. So like I was really, that was like always playing in the back of my mind as I was going through this grueling process of getting to where I wanted to be, and the ins and outs, the day-to-days of it. So again, graduated, got my master's degree in fine arts, and I'm with Marian Ibrahim Gallery, and like things are great. I couldn't ask for more right now. So now I guess I will pull up some pictures of paintings and stop bumping my gums. And if anyone has questions, I guess we'll have time afterwards to talk about those. But in the meantime, I'm gonna run through a few of these pictures. Let's see. That's not it. Okay. Let's not do that. Okay. So this is a painting that I did.
Jerrell, we
Are you
can't.
sharing your screen?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
you got to share your screen.
So
Oh.
at the bottom, it's a green button that says share your screen, share screen. Do you see it?
Yes.
That's what you just hit that.
All right.
And then we can see what you see. There you go.
Are we good?
Yeah.
All right. Perfect.
Great. Perfect.
Okay. So yeah, this is a piece that I did during graduate school. It's called Vive and y Aprende. Full disclaimer, when I paint or when I'm thinking about creating works, it's not for the same reason all the time. Representation is very important to me. I want people to, like, I want my daughter to go to museums and see like people that look like us, you know, like I'm very particular about that. I want my family to go to museums and feel comfortable with seeing themselves in that space. And I also want people who aren't familiar with seeing people of color in this space to see it and be comfortable as well. So that's like one thing, that's one important factor and one very important reason why I do what I do. In addition to the love of painting and understanding what the materiality of paint can do and the importance of creating a language with paint in particular. So my reasons why I work on specific paintings, they vary, but they all tend to stick to those like main principles. This in particular, Vive and Aprende, I did this in 2019 in graduate school. And the whole point behind it was like thinking about contrasts and thinking about opposites and just having this tension and dialogue with like one as opposed to the other. As you can see, the figure in the light has a white shirt on. I mean, like everything about this painting is like complete opposites. And the more you sit down and take time with it, the more you observe it, you'll understand what I mean by that. Again, I don't want to take too much time like talking about every painting. If you have questions in particular, we can come back to them. Let's see. Let's get to the next one. This is called Title Breakthrough. This was another painting that I did in 2019, fall semester of 2019. I had gotten to a point where I finally understood what it was that I wanted to do with my work and how I wanted to really play with this idea of using photography as like the source of my paintings, and also allowing the viewer to understand that this is a two-dimensional surface and I'm not really interested in like showing perspective and creating an illusion of space. So I like, this was the first time I was really able to really nail this idea that I have of creating spaces and not making it about perspective, you know, like, but still making sense, you know, like this play between the idea of 2D and 3D and with illusion, how illusion is supposed to play in paintings and things of that nature. So this was really pivotal for me. This painting is titled Pot Thug's Mansion. This was, the title of this painting was what I was listening to the whole time creating this painting, actually. If you haven't heard, please take some time and check this song out. Another painting that I did in 2019, fall semester, right before a big show that I had at in LA. It was a show that was going on at UTA Artist Space, and I cranked out like these 2 paintings for that show, but they were very like during the process of making them, I learned so much, and they were so fulfilling. You know, the first figure that you see jumping into the water was taken from a Noah Davis painting. And Noah Davis is a huge inspiration to me. Rest in peace, one of the greatest. Like, his work is phenomenal. I get so much inspiration from him. But I was, like I was in a time like mentally where I was kind of like exhausted. And I just wanted to know, like, I wanted to paint what it felt like to feel like just like unshackled and free and just like enjoying yourself and not really thinking about anything. So that's initially where that started. This is I Wish I Could Give You This Feeling. This is a piece that I did in the beginning of during the beginning of COVID. Again, it's like mentally I was in a space trap. We weren't really going anywhere at the time, and I just wanted to create something that gave me some fresh air, allowed me to breathe. And it just put me in a good space mentally. And I'm really inspired by the Impressionist movement, Monet, Manet, and although he didn't consider himself an Impressionist, I do, but he didn't. So I guess that's most important. I was really like intrigued by the way that they applied paint to the surface, and their use of color and really getting the most out of the material. Like I've always been in love with that. So I went back to that and just thought about what it would look like to have a Black body in that type of space. This is a painting that I did called Fly Black Boy Fly. This was during COVID as well. My wife and I were watching a documentary, and I saw this picture. I mean, it wasn't exactly like this, obviously, but it was something about the way he was sitting in that chair that really made sense to me. So I just ran with it and created a painting behind it. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes it's just some things that I see that really just makes perfect sense, and I'll run with it. And that's it for the paintings. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Jerrell. That was, and thank you for sharing yourself. I mean, that's really, you put a lot out to let us really get to know you. I do have one question. It's actually kind of, what's with the black and white striped socks?
Let's go back to that.
He has on a pair.
Yes.
And the guy in the one laying in the grass,
yes,
has on a pair. What is their significance to the black and white striped sock?
You know what? Other than the fact that I wear a lot of socks that have different patterns, and me just really being conscious of making sure every part of the painting can stand on its own, like that's all it is for me. Like I want the viewer to look at the whole painting and understand that no part of it was like not thought of. I'm thinking of everything in its entirety. So that's pretty much all that's about.
Gotcha. And you have such a hand for color saturation. It's making sure that the colors that you present are vibrant, and the shading kind of shows you that it's deliberately made and intentionally drawing you in to experience that space. And so you really, it's almost like what does it even take layer wise to create that level of color that pulls you in such a fashion. So bravo on that one. I also want to, and I know I'm asking all the questions, but I also find it interesting that you go the trajectory from Franklin to where you are now, just kind of stepping into.
Okay, I gotta go. I was calling. I didn't see you.
I'm sorry, somebody is not on there at the moment. So stepping from Franklin to where you are now, are you? And I know you made the comment about getting to where you are, where you want to be, and you've gone from Franklin to this place. I don't know if this place has a name, or that you know or can see more things happening with you in your creative process.
I think I don't know. I don't have a, like, I think for Franklin in particular, that was the first time that I created a body work that was cohesive, and it was like from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
And lately it hasn't been about, I'm working on I have a body of work that I have been working on that is like a series of works. But for the most part, I'm painting from the photos that I find in my aunt's photo albums.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just pictures that just capture, it's something specific about the picture that really, makes me want to like paint it, and it could be anything. It could be a sock, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It could be the way like that someone has their hand placed or how they're sitting. It really doesn't matter, but like something in particular will catch my eye and it'll make me want to create, so that's where I've been recently.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
I saw an article that was written about you, and it's titled Jerrell Gibbs Normalizes Black Innocence Through His Figurative Portraits.
Mm-hmm.
Was that intentional for someone to come away with it being about innocence of the work that you create?
Absolutely, spot on. Because as a Black male, I just get tired of the same narrative being perpetuated, and I wanted to show and see my people in a different way, the way that I know my people to live. And everybody has their flaws, you know what I mean, and everybody has there's a good and bad to each and every one of us. There's a side that we don't like to show, but the reality is, like, what I see on television and on social media is not consistent with what I see like day to day, and I wanted to show that, and I was really focused on making that the forefront of my work.
Gotcha. There's a series of questions in the chat, so I'm going to go down. And the first one from Susan says, these are all relatively large works. Are you conscious of scale when you work?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Size is I'm very particular about the size for the experience that I want the viewer to have with the work. And it's always, the size of the painting is particular to what I want the viewer to experience when they get up to see the work in person. Some large for a more bodily experience, some smaller for a more intimate, like close connection with it. Again, like the larger the scale, the more cerebral, the more like you're like one-to-one with the actual figure in the work. You know what I mean? And for like stuff more smaller, it's more typically for the mind,
Gotcha.
Mental, yeah.
So here's another question from Tommy. How has your Baltimore upbringing impacted your work?
It is my work. Like,
He told you in the beginning. Did they listen?
That's the reality. My work comes from photography. It comes from the photos that were taken here in Baltimore, even before I was born. Like some of the pictures that I used. most of them are from a period where I didn't exist. You know, there of times that my aunt had parties like at our crib, or had cookouts in the backyard, or just like had family over for family gatherings, or like travel and things like that. So it's more so these experiences that they've had that I feel some sort of connection with, because I may have not necessarily been there, but I've experienced those things before, you know what I mean? And they've taken place in this city, and this is our home, you know, like this is where we come from. So when I'm making a painting, like 85 to 90% of the work that I create, it comes from Baltimore, like born and raised, like the painting, the artist, everything about it.
Gotcha. Here's another question. Has being quarantined or having limited access to the outside world changed your idea of or of you as an artist?
Not, no, no, you know, actually it has. It made, more than anything, it made me realize how important we as creators are to, I mean, I'm not trying to make it like it's, it starts and begins with artists, but I think what we contribute to society is very important. And during times like this, it really showed, you know, and I was made aware of that because of COVID, you know, how important it is to, again, like maybe see a painting of someone laying in the grass and like you feel that, you know, like you maybe can't get out there to do it, but it takes you back to a time or an experience that you had that puts you back in that mental space. You know, it gives you some sense of like comfort and stability, you know. So more than anything, it showed me how important, you know, we are as creators.
Gotcha. So Susan says you mentioned the significance of the Impressionists. What about Matisse?
Oh, I love Matisse. Matisse is like, speaking of Matisse, he was like a huge influence as to like how I decided to um, incorporate the floor as a part of the painting as well, and not like just like the floor for me initially was a floor, but studying Matisse, I learned that the floor has more to offer than just being something that you stand on or sit on. You know, it can become a place in itself, or it can become the floor should insinuate the rest of the painting. Like it should have some sort of interaction with the rest of the work as well. So I love Matisse, you know, the way he was able to like use, again, like paint, and then the importance of like how he used paint, like the fluidity of the brush stroke, the intention behind like using thick as opposed to thin diluted paint, you know, like all of those things like I learned from Matisse.
Gotcha. So there's a question from Tangela. What's the name of the song you were listening to when painting for the LA show? And what is it about artist Noah Davis and his work that inspires your art?
So the painting that this is the painting that I created while listening to Pac Thug's Mansion. But it's by Tupac Shakur. The title is called Thug's Mansion.
Yeah.
Sorry, like, some viewers may not know, but yeah. So that's I listened to that like the entire time I was working on this piece. And this is a very large painting, so it took some time. But what was the second question? I'm sorry.
And it said, what is it about Noah Davis's
Okay.
as his work? How does that inspire you?
Yeah. Noah Davis, to me, Noah Davis understands like the relationship and the language of figurative and abstract painting, you know, like to the point he was at a point that I want to get to. He understands how to, in my opinion, he understands how to navigate both of those fields and make his paintings work together like in unison. He understood again what it was to use paint and create a language with paint, as opposed to like illustrating something or painting it to be exact, or allowing the figure to have perfect anatomy and things like that. Like that wasn't his intention nor his goal. He was focused on like creating paintings that had a language within themselves, you know, and I feel like everything that he did is what I aspire or want to do or get to, you know.
Gotcha. So Norma wants you to translate the first picture title.
Vive y aprende. It's Spanish for live and learn.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, Sheena says we showed all the Franklin body of work and fathers, brothers, sons, save one or two. Okay, Norma says, please tell me the title of the portrait of the man on the bench. Title is covered.
This one, Breakthrough.
Oh, okay, breakthrough.
Is
Nice.
this what she's referring to?
No, I think that's when she said, that's the only one I think you showed where there was a bench.
Okay.
Okay, now that's the quarantine one. I answered that one. So let's see. Is anyone has been quarantined with access? That one's from Dion. You've done that. Okay, how does the new work differ from the old body of work? It's from Jean. Came from YouTube.
In so many different ways. I mean, every day I look at a painting. I mean, the paintings that I look at that I did yesterday, you know, it never satisfied, you know, so I just continue to grow in that space to where as though I never feel comfortable with what I'm doing. So I can continue to challenge myself. I think, again, the most important thing that I've learned over the course of graduate school was how to manipulate paint and how to create a language and dialogue with paint. And I think that has been the biggest thing and the biggest change within my work. The presentation of the Black male has been like very consistent, but the use of paint, you know, in that manner, that really like the way that I use paint and apply paint to surface has been like the biggest change, I would have to say.
Yeah. So Yvonne asked the question, how much do you deviate from the actual photos? Breakthrough brings Matisse to mind.
Yeah, I actually typically it's one thing that I'll take from the photo and everything else is very like loose and creative on my end. Like this painting in a particular, Breakthrough, the figure, the male figure was he was in that was like how he was, you know, but everything else was created by me. The bowl with the flowers, those flowers were there, but they didn't look like that, and they weren't like as vibrant. And everything else was like, I basically take a figure, or like if I'm looking at a picture, maybe it's not a figure, maybe I like the interior design or something like that. I'll run with that, and then I'll make everything centered around that for it to make sense and be cohesive and kind of just like flow, you know. So I'm building as I go, depending on what my starting point is. Sometimes it's a figure, sometimes it could be a plant, you know, sometimes it could be the floor, sometimes it could be a chair. It really doesn't matter.
Okay, here's another one. Who are contemporary or living Black artists who inspire you or inform your work?
Lynette Yedombochi, Carrie James Marshall, Henry Taylor, Njideka Crosby, Lorna Simpson. I mean, this list can go on for a long time.
That's a rich list. Okay, Jessica asked, can you talk about pulling the backgrounds into the viewer's eyes and yet your subjects appear right, front, and center?
Mm.
So another question from Janice says, oh, can you talk about the backgrounds? I'm not sure where she wants you to go with that question.
Yeah. The backgrounds, it depends on, sometimes it could be a background. Backgrounds can be starting points for me as well, you know, but the whole idea behind my paintings are to create like one solid piece, one painting that is complete in itself and it can stand on its own. As opposed to it, like, I think that's the one difference. Like when I'm painting and it's not like a part of a series, I'm thinking about a way that the viewer can continue to come back and find something new every time they look at the work. if I'm thinking about a series of work, it's very intentional. Like I want you to see something in like succession in order, you know, for a specific purpose at the end.
But hey, I'm on a Zoom.
Uh-oh. But it's not muted.
All good. We all here too, brother.
Right?
But yeah, like backgrounds, they play a significant role. Sometimes they set the tone, they set the mood for what I want the viewer to feel, how I want the figure in the painting to be presented or acknowledged, or maybe not acknowledged. You know, it really depends on where the initial picture takes me when I see it.
Okay. And Janice has a comment here that says you have those flowers in a number of your PSI. I'm not sure if that's, I guess, oh, it finishes down here at your paintings. Why and what is significance of those flowers in your works?
I think more than anything, initially it started as a way to add something else to the work other than the figure. And I think for me, like I love flowers and I love plants, but I don't have a green thumb. So like the idea of me being able to paint it and make it look good and actually live in that context, it makes me happy. But I also like the fact that, you know, like most, again, like the idea of showcasing Black men in a scenario or situation that most people don't see or believe to be true. You know, like these are real times and real experiences. Like I don't have a green thumb, but I wish I did. You know, you know what I mean. So it's about like creating that, like showing that, you know, and being comfortable with that.
Okay. Now, Deborah has a question. In your quest to find out what makes a great artist great, what did you discover?
I discovered that them being true to themselves is what it is what kept them consistent and allowed them to continue to grow. Not really letting your success or their success or a bunch of people get in the way of what it is that they were looking to figure out as an artist, as a creator. Like they never settled for like they never got to a point where they were like, okay, I'm going to continue to paint this way because I know it brought me success. They continued to challenge themselves and they continue to go back and hit their head against the wall because it's a struggle, like to grow and learn. Like it's tough to go into the studio and create something new as opposed to going into the studio and creating something that you're comfortable with doing that you've done before, you know? Like the greats, they figure something out, they make it, they're happy with it, and then they move on to the next thing the next day. You know, like that's what they do, and that's what I've been striving to do.
Gotcha. Here's another question. Franklin from the Charlie Brown cartoons used to carry your voice. What represents your voice now?
I would say my work always represents, you know, my work, my voice. Whatever I'm going through personally, it is projected onto the painting. Like again, this was done with the intention to show me or show us in a different setting, something that I felt like was important to present to the viewers. This was a painting that I created because I felt at the time, like in graduate school in fall, like it was a lot going on. And mentally, I just needed that space. I needed to open up. I needed the space and time to breathe. So I created this, you know? So everything that I do, like my paintings continue to be the voice for within, even though it may not be as in your face, like as the Franklin series was.
Okay, now there's one more comment here. Thank you so much for that. It says, tell us about those flowers.
Which flowers are we?
That's all she's got here. Tell us about those flowers.
Okay. Well, I mean, they're pretty basic flowers to me, but I can tell you, like, it's hard to really appreciate these by looking at them in a picture. if you see them in person, you'll really get to understand like what it is when I'm talking about the materiality and being into like using paint. But I'll just talk about the process of creating these flowers. Um, so I was working on the entire painting and everything, like the flowers came last, and I wanted to make the flowers really have like an impact and stand on their own. So as opposed to just like painting flowers and making them look real pretty, I decided to use a palette knife and just take big globs of paint and just like smack it on there and then, just like adjusted the colors like that. So like when you get up on the painting, you see all these different textures and all this different interaction with the paint, and you can kind of get lost in that in itself. So yeah, I guess that's what I got to say about that.
No, so I have I don't see another question in the that hasn't been answered already in the chat. But I do, okay, wait a minute, one just popped up. Love those bodies arching through the air in Pac. Love those two brothers walking, so much to see in your work. That's a comment there. So I do want to ask you a question because I talked about the color saturation and just how beautifully you blend these things together. And I'm not an artist, trust me on that one. I'm more of the collector. But I do want to ask you about the things that are, I don't want to say more or less important to you when you're creating, because creating is what it is. And are you more focused on the concept and experience you want the viewer to have over technique? Because there's some things as you're creating that, I mean, I guess in school, they'll teach you how you should paint certain things or draw certain things in certain ways in order to achieve a certain outcome. But as an artist, you do it. And I don't know if at the end of the day, when you have, if you feel you have total creative freedom, there's more about technique than there is about the experience or the concept that you're trying to communicate with the viewer.
Yeah.
But where do you fall on technique versus end result experience from the viewer?
I would say more than anything, for me, it's about creating something that the viewer can understand in a way. Like I want viewers, I really want there to be some, it's basically like me, more so than anything, I'm focused on communication. I want all viewers to be able to view the work and take something different from it. And by that, I mean, maybe you have a more, a more novice, like, viewer. They come to a show, they see the painting, they see it for what it is. But then you have someone who's been looking at art for 30 plus years and they see something as well that takes it to another level. Like that's what I'm more interested in. And whatever it requires for me to get to that point or to make that happen, I'm open to doing, But it's all about like having that, not allowing the language to be foreign. You know what I mean? It's nothing worse than, so I'm working on like learning Spanish and French, right? I don't want to, it's so intimidating to speak to someone who speaks Spanish or is fluent in Spanish or someone who is fluent in French for me, because I'm not fluent in that world, you know what I mean? But if I create a language that everyone can get involved with or understand, then it makes it, kind of like better and you're less like intimidated by it and you're more open to seeing and experiencing it for what it is and what you see and being confident in with what you see, and being comfortable with that. So again, for me, it's more about just communication and access.
Okay, and there's another question. What memorable responses have you had from people who have seen your work?
A lot. I've seen people cry. I've seen, oh man, I don't think there's anything that I haven't seen, to be completely honest with you. And I'm not like trying to like brag or anything, but it varies, and more than anything, what I take away from it is it really connects, which is very important to me. Because again, like I'm not making anything up that I paint about, like it's all from within, so I get a lot of different, I've even had people that didn't like certain things that I've done before, and I'm cool with that. Like I'm not doing it for everybody, and that's completely fine. But yeah, so it's
Yeah. So I know you said you have representation. Do you still feel as though you have complete creative freedom, or do you feel pressured to create to sell?
oh no, not at all. Not at all.
Right.
Not at all, not one bit. My gallery is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that we don't play about, like it doesn't matter how much I paint, how often, when, like it's about really me being comfortable and creating in a manner that makes sense to me and allowing it to be authentic and come from myself as opposed to painting for the purpose of making a sale. Like
Very good.
that's not the goal at all.
Good. So I'm going to just read you a comment from Ariel. She says, "Thank you so much for sharing, Jerrell, beautiful work, especially because your work comes from within yourself. Do you see yourself as finite, or do you see yourself changing your style throughout your career?"
Constantly changing, constantly evolving, constantly growing. I don't want to make a painting like this year, or next year. Like this Pac Thug's mansion, it was what it was, and that's what it is, and that's what it's going to be. And I don't want to make another one of those. I want to continue to challenge myself. I don't want this to be the best painting that I ever done. You know what I mean? Like, nor do I want this to be.
Yeah.
I just want to continue to challenge myself, and wherever that takes me, I'm fine with that.
So what does that mean for you? What's next for Jerrell Gibbs? The husband, the father, the artist?
That's a good question. I'm just trying to, man, I'm just trying to get this COVID lift off. I promise you, that's first and foremost for me. I need to go see some art. I need to travel. Like, I really need that in my life right now. Like,
I'm with you on the travel one. I'm with you on that 100%. I'm on that.
yeah, like that's all, to be honest, that's all I can think about like right now. I have a lot of stuff lined up for next year, but we are kind of like waiting to see how things play out. So, I'm not even going to speak on that, but yeah, I'm just trying to get out of here and travel.
I gave up that word, I did give up trying. It says you're either doing or not.
You're right. I
You're not
can't.
trying, you're either doing it or you're not doing it.
Trying is failing, right?
It's an attempt with no outcome. So we're either doing it or we're not doing it. I thank you so much, Jerrell, for spending so much time with us today. I'm not sure if there are others who have questions or comments. I see that George says, "Thanks, Jerrell, for how generous you are with your life and your work." And someone asked, Deborah asked, "Are you related to Nathaniel Gibbs?"
No, I'm not.
Okay, but I do appreciate this so much. The time you spent, even I feel like, well, back then when you were vice chair, just getting ready to go into school.
You feel me?
Now here you are. I can Google you and get a page and a half of outcome or results of you in Artsy or some news magazine or some image of someone who has just recently acquired your work. So not just congratulations, but that's a complete and total response to your talent and your heart, and working from a space that is completely authentic, which is not always the case when it comes to someone who has to deal from a creative space.
Mm-hmm.
It's such an intimate and private place to work from. And the reason I ask the questions I ask are so that you or I can learn more about where your inspiration truly comes from.
Yeah.
There's internal inspiration that allows you to stay grounded in the work you do, that will give you complete and total creative freedom always.
Absolutely.
You're always going to stay in the heart space when you create the work that means something to you. We all will see that in your work. And any artist work who operates from that perspective. So for that, I thank you for being one of our own. And let's see. Just trying to see if there were any more questions that came up. We so appreciate you for still being a part of JJC.
Absolutely.
Even though you're like Mr. Big Successful Artist now, you still take time to come and talk to us. So I appreciate that. And we've got some things in the chat over here. I'm not sure if we have anything.
Thank
from, you're welcome. Thank you so much for participating. Anything from Facebook or YouTube that we need to check? I know you guys were chatting, typing them in the chat as we were going through. So I thank you all for your time.
Thank
this
you,
evening.
Jerrell.
Thank you so much, Jerrell. You're here.
Thank you.
Our members saying thank you.
Thank
Again,
you.
Joshua Johnson Council's Artist Conversations. We meet on Thursday, second Thursday of the month. Jerrell Gibbs, artist extraordinaire, family member for Joshua Johnson Council, and local all around Baltimore. Man,
Thank you, Jerrell.
Thanks, Jerrell.
Thank
Well,
you.
Great work.
I
thank
miss
you all.
I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, absolutely. I look
Great
forward.
presentation. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
really appreciate it. I really.
Thank you, Jerrell. That was
All
really
right,
great.
thank you all. Dave, you need to close us out with anything, or are we good?
I think we're good. Thank you so much, Jerrell. Always a pleasure to hear from you.
No
Thank
problem.
you all for joining us next month let me look at my calendar real quick. On Thursday, December 10th, we're going to hear from the artist Crystal Mack. So please join us for that one. Crystal's amazing creative here in Baltimore, and check our social media for more information about that.
Great.
Thanks. all.
Thank you all so much. Enjoy your night.
Thank
Until
you.
next month.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.